Let me introduce you to the quick cooker. This is a pressure cooker, but so much more. When you get the quick cooker, it comes with, of course, a lid. When you take the lid off, it gives you a little tone to let you know that the lid is off. It comes with a 3-footed stand that you can place in the bottom if you want to do 2-level cooking, and a removable stainless steel pot. I'm going to set this to sear and change the time to 4 minutes. And hit start. So we're going to let that oil heat up for just a minute. It has several other settings. Let me just get this right. Several others. It has steam, it has slow cook, it has proof for doing bread, has chicken, poultry, beef and pork, fish and seafood, has soup and stock, which we're going to use tonight. And then it has white rice, brown rice, whole grains, beans. You can do beans without soaking, and stew chili and dessert. So once we have a tablespoon of oil in there, we're going to add just a few items to make this wonderful soup. Tonight it is, lots of deer in the backyard. Tonight it is a red lentil and spinach soup, and there's only a few ingredients. So we have carrots, 3 large, 2 ribs of celery that have been sliced. We're doing 2 cloves of garlic, bay leaf, a cup of red lentils, 5 cups of baby spinach, 4 cups of vegetable broth, a little bit of cumin, salt and pepper, and we're also going to be using 1 large onion that has been chopped in the manual food processor. The carrots and celery were sliced using the number 3 setting on the simple slicer. This is like a little inexpensive mandolin we have. So you put the food holder on, put your food in there, and just back and forth to slice it. So now that that oil is heating, we're going to add the celery and carrots. Go. And the onion that was done in the manual food processor. This is really a cool item. It will chop your celery, onions, peppers, cooked chicken, just about anything you want. And instead of using a food chopper where you smack it, this one is a ratchet press mechanism. So the more you press it, the finer your food gets chopped. And what we want is a coarse chop on the onions. So I've done a little bit of chopping already, so that goes in there also. And we're going to add some garlic. And this is our famous garlic press. You don't have to peel your garlic. You just put the garlic clove in there, skin and all, and press it in. And it comes with a little garlic cleaning tool, so your fingers never really have to touch garlic. And you can use that cleaning tool to scoop out the skin that's left. So we're going to let these veggies cook on sear for 4 minutes. They're smelling good already. And we'll come back in 4 minutes and we'll do the next step. Next step, the veggies have been stir frying in there in the saute setting for 4 minutes. We're going to add the other ingredients. So 4 cups of vegetable stock, lentils that have been rinsed. And the funny thing about the red lentils is they start off red, but they end up yellow when they're done. And I'm using the fine mesh strainer that comes as a set of 3. This is the smallest one. You can rinse things as fine as quinoa in this. So also going in is the cumin, 1 teaspoon, and salt, 1/2 teaspoon, and pepper, and this is our salt and pepper grinder set, very elegant for your table. And we're going to give that a stir. And put the lid on. You can hear that little tone. That lets you know the lid is on properly. We're going to switch it to soup. You can watch this blue light go across. Soup stock. And it automatically comes up with 30 minutes and high pressure. So then you just push the button and it starts. And you know that it's going to be building up pressure in here. When the red button comes up, the pressure button, you'll know that it's under pressure and cooking, and you don't want to try and open the lid at that point. You're going to let the cooking cycle go and then do either a quick release or a natural release. Quick release is you push this button on the top, and natural release is you just leave it alone and it depressurizes by itself. So we'll come back and see what's happening in a few minutes. While we're waiting, I thought I'd give you a couple of tips. And one is about celery, and this holds for green onions and lettuce too. If you wrap it in tin foil and put it in the fridge, it will last for weeks. And what the tin foil does is it prevents your frost-free fridge from sucking all the moisture out of your expensive produce. That's tip number 1. Tip number 2 is we added a bay leaf to the slow cooker. I just buy them like this. They're in a resealable pack, and I put them in the freezer. And when you put them in the freezer, take them out when you need them, 1 or 2. They smell just as fresh as the day you bought them. So there's a couple of tips for you. I adjusted the cooking time to 10 minutes just by rotating the dial and pressing time and the minus sign. Originally it was at 30. We want it only for 10 minutes, and it takes a little bit for it to come up to pressure, but the red button is up and the countdown has started. And just want to tell you a couple of things about the quick cooker that makes it different from others. Number 1 is that our handles are at the base, so on both sides at the bottom, so it makes it safer to move if you have to. And the outsides do not get hot when you are cooking. And lastly, the exhaust button for the pressure is at the top. It's away from your fingers. And it's important that when you are setting up for your cooking, that you know that when you go to exhaust manually, that it doesn't exhaust under cupboards or against a wall. So you want it pointed away to an open area. So that's the first thing. So now we're down to 9 minutes. And the difference between the quick cooker and the quick cooker set is a number of different items. With the set, you also get a glass lid. It has a little vent hole here, which is handy for when you are proofing bread dough, pizza dough, or if you want to do something on slow cook that doesn't require pressure. You can use this, and that little hole lets you put in our instant read temperature thermometer. With the set, you also get a set of mini oven mitts, which is handy for taking out the rack. And speaking of the rack, this is also part of the set. There is a ceramic bowl, a stretch fit lid, and a removable rack. So those are the extra things that you get with the set. I mentioned earlier that you get the the three-footed stand, and that allows you to do two-level cooking. So if you wanted to do a roast beef, for instance, you'd sear the roast beef, put it on the bottom, then you would put the three-footed stand on top, and then on top of the three-footed stand, you can do your potatoes in this. So in 35 minutes, you can have a pot roast and mashed potatoes in one vessel. I think that's so cool. And the pot roast is fall off the bone in 35 minutes. Okay, so the timer is up. We just heard 3 beeps. So this is done, and we are ready to do a manual release. So I'm going to push the button at the top to release the pressure, and the button will go down. And then we can go to the final step for this soup, which is adding 5 cups of baby spinach that's been washed and spun, or pre-washed if you buy it at the store like that. Half a cup of coconut milk. We have an allergy here, so we don't use coconut, but you can use Greek yogurt, you can use sour cream, or in this case I'm going to use half a cup of half and half, and the juice of half a lime. And normally I would have a lime, and I would use the citrus press to juice the lime, but I don't have one today, so I'm using sort of a cheater thing, which I'm sure a lot of people do. What you usually get out of half a lime is a teaspoon or 2, and my favorite way to measure is with the measure-alls. This is the petite measure-all, and like all the measure-all cups, it measures in ounces, tablespoons, teaspoons, and milliliters. Let me take the lid off. You hear that little ding? It says it's okay to take the lid off. We're going to fish out that bay leaf I added. There we go. So adding the spinach. Cream. And the lime juice. I'm going to give that a stir. And all we want the spinach to do, the baby spinach, is to wilt. Oh, this is smelling so good and looking so good. Alright, so we're putting the lid back on.